At 4 minutes past 9 on the morning of December 6, 1917, the largest explosion human beings had ever created tore through a city. It wasn't a bomb, it wasn't a battle, it was an accident, and it wouldn't be surpassed until the atomic age 28 years later. 2,000 people perished. 9,000 more were hurt. An entire district simply ceased to exist. And the people of Halifax, Nova Scotia, had watched the danger drift toward them for 20 full minutes. Stay with me, because the strangest part of this story isn't the blast. It's what the blast set in motion, and it's still happening today. Halifax in 1917 was the beating heart of Canada's war effort. Convoys bound for Europe gathered in its huge ice-free harbor. Warships, troop ships, freighters crammed with munitions and supplies. Anti-submarine nets sealed the harbor every night, and to reach the open sea, every one of those ships had to pass through the Narrows, a channel barely a quarter-mile wide, squeezed between the city and the town of Dartmouth on the far shore. On the morning of December 6th, two ships were on a collision course with history, coming in from the Atlantic. The Mont-Blanc, a French freighter loaded to the gunwales with nearly 3,000 tons of explosives, TNT in the holds, gun cotton, barrels of picric acid, and drums of highly flammable benzol stacked right out on her decks. She couldn't fly warning flags in a harbor full of enemy eyes. That would paint a target on her back. So almost nobody ashore knew she was a floating bomb, heading out. The Emo, a Norwegian steamer bound for New York to pick up relief supplies for starving Belgium. She'd been delayed all morning, and she was running fast. Too fast, in the wrong lane of the Narrows. The two ships met head-on. What followed was a fatal dance of confusion. Whistles blown, signals misread, engines thrown into reverse at the worst possible moment. The Imo's sudden reversal swung her bow straight across the Mont-Blanc's path. At 8:45, steel met steel. The collision itself was almost gentle, a grinding of plates, a few sparks. But those sparks fell among the benzol barrels, and within moments, the Mont-Blanc was on fire. Her crew knew exactly what they were sitting on. They took to the lifeboats and rowed for their lives, shouting warnings in French that most onlookers couldn't understand. And the burning ship, abandoned, drifted straight toward Pier 6 in the crowded Richmond district. Here is the detail that will stay with you. People didn't run, they gathered. Dock workers left their posts. Shopkeepers came to their doors. Schoolchildren pressed their faces to the glass. Hundreds of Haligonians walked down toward the waterfront to watch the strange, silent spectacle of a burning ship gliding through the harbor. Nobody ashore knew her cargo. For 20 minutes, the city watched its own destruction drift closer like a parade float. At 4 minutes and 35 seconds past 9, the Mont-Blanc vanished. Nearly 3,000 tons of explosives went up at once, the force of roughly 3 kilotons of TNT. The ship disintegrated. Her half-ton anchor shaft was hurled 2 miles through the air. A fireball swallowed the pier, and a pressure wave flattened Richmond in a single heartbeat. Some 1,200 buildings destroyed. 325 acres of city laid flat. Windows shattered 60 miles away. The blast was heard and felt more than 200 miles out. Then came the water. The explosion tore a tsunami some 18 meters high out of the harbor and hurled it at both shorelines, lifting the Emo itself clean onto the Dartmouth beach. Then came the fires, racing through the splintered ruins. And that night, as rescuers dug through the wreckage with their bare hands, the sky opened, and Halifax was buried under a howling blizzard, 16 inches of snow over the ruins, and the people still trapped beneath them. Rescue trains from across the Maritimes had to fight through the storm to reach the city. And yet, inside those 20 minutes of drift, one man understood. His name was Vincent Coleman, a 45-year-old railway dispatcher at the Richmond rail yards. Warned by a fleeing sailor that the burning ship carried munitions, Coleman ran for his life, then stopped. An overnight express carrying some 300 passengers was due into the very station beside Pier 6. He went back to his telegraph key. His last message tapped out as the burning ship closed on the pier. "Hold up the train. Ammunition ship afire in harbor making for Pier 6 and will explode. Guess this will be my last message. Goodbye, boys." The train was held. Hundreds were spared. Vincent Coleman perished at his post. The aftermath rewrote the rulebook. Halifax saw the first fully coordinated civilian mass casualty medical response in Canadian history. Makeshift hospitals and schoolhouses, trains of doctors and nurses steaming in through the blizzard. And from Boston, the city from our own first episode, A relief train raced north within hours, loaded with surgeons, nurses, and supplies. Nova Scotia has never forgotten it. To this day, every single year, the province sends the city of Boston a giant Christmas tree. Its way of saying thank you. A century later, even the blame had a strange afterlife. The first inquiry pinned everything on the Mont-Blanc's captain and pilot, men who had survived in a lifeboat while their ship erased a neighborhood. Later appeals split the fault between both ships. In the end, no one person was ever truly held responsible for the worst accident in Canadian history. That's the fact. The biggest man-made blast before the atomic bomb was an accident that a whole city watched coming, and it left us both modern disaster medicine and a Christmas tradition that will not die. What the facts? Next time, the plague that made people dance until they dropped. No explosion, no flood, and no explanation that has ever fully satisfied historians.